We're going to start the final session. Please have a seat, please. So, welcome back. It's great that you are still all here. Have you seen this? We have now gold here on the floor. It's for your presentation. And I saw that the workshops were well filled, and it looked like as if you worked seriously, which is great. We are very curious now about seeing the presentations. Before we start, we would like to show another video because we have a very young participant in the workshop. This is Shili here. Shili is 12 years old, and Shili did a video. It's the first video that he has ever done in his life, and he also did a video about his theory, like without. And the title of your video is Bodies Without Gravity. And we are going to see the video. I just saw it by chance, and I thought it would be great if we could all see the video. It's the contribution of Shili to the City Science Summit.
This is what happens to bodies without gravity. Without gravity, bones move the most, and bone density drops over 1% per month. Without gravity, you lose endurance. You experience cardiovascular deconditioning. Your blood is equally distributed instead of eating your structures. Having more blood in your bleed instead of your toes actually isn't a good thing. When your fluids in your body shift towards your head, it puts pressure on your eyes, causing significant vision problem. Without gravity, you develop kidney stones due to dehydration, an increase of calcium leaching from your bones. Without gravity, your blood pressure lowers and your heart rate lowers. Bodies without gravity means that we will have to be constantly tested. Space will have an effect on your balance and your ability to do your job. You'll need fine motor testing too, in order to monitor your fluids and how that relates to your ever-suffering vision. Without gravity, our bodies have to wear compression cuffs on your thighs. You'll undergo constant ultrasounds on your spine, and you'll have to perform fitness self-evaluations. Besides sleeping, astronauts spend more time exercising than doing anything else. To keep your muscles firing and the plasma in your blood carrying oxygen-rich blood cells to slow down the loss of bone, you'll have to attach yourself to a harness and spend 3 hours a day on the treadmill. Then to keep your heart rate up, you have to hit the cyclopedometer Last, you have to do resistance exercises like squats and heel raises. Without gravity, all bodies that are disabled here on Earth may become hyper-able in space.
Great, thank you very much, Jimmy. That was great. So I hand over now to you, Emanuel. There's no moderation now. Emanuel is the timekeeper, and I think we can start.
Okay, let's try. I don't know, is everybody loaded up something? No. Okay, you're out. But we will start. We'll see what we have. This is the first page. This is the second page. This is what we want to show to you, but I'm not sure if everything is here, so we will see. This will be the first chapter. So the first, actually you see this is first, this is second, so get ready. 2 persons of the first one, come up to stage now. Come on, who's this? One microphone, get up, and the time is running. Not yet. Go.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Enia Mota. I'm faculty from University of São Paulo in Brazil, and I'll present some of our findings, some of our discussion related to mobility without cars. So basically, when we think about mobility without cars, we think like something sci-fi, something interesting things. But what we really believe is more likely to be is people get into the city, appropriating the city, walking and riding bikes and using it as using it to mobility. So basically, we organized the workshop asking the audience to come up with ideas. Cities without mobility, with or without, and take them freedom to decide what to approach. So some of the widths are mobility with alternative economic incentives. So because it's necessary to drive short-term behavior and long-term mentality changes. So you need something to provoke these changes. But at the same side, we have mobility without inconvenience, because it's hard to have consensus when convenience is affected.
30 seconds.
Okay, that's it.
Oh, wait. Come here. Oh, again.
There we go. Other 2 concepts, mobility with flexibility, because we need to be organizing shifts to meet different type of demands, and mobility without lanes, ownership or bornness, because it has to be fun as well. When we talk about flexibility, we need to have better use of the assets in an urban environment. And finally, mobility with local solutions, because we know that locally we better take advantage of what we can make more attractive.
Thank you! Next, come on! Mobility without noise. Here, go with this. Time is running. Stop.
Hello, my name is Wolfgang Kuhl. I'm working at the Stuttgart Media University as a professor and also for Daimler Mobility Services. And my name is Andre. I work down here in the CityScienceLab. And we were questioning whether mobility has to be noisy. So is there a future for mobility without noise? And we know a lot about noise. Many people perceive noise as one of the worst things in cities, even worse than annoying neighbors. That was something that struck us. And so we thought we should think about mobility without noise, about different planning processes that put the sensory experience in the middle and not the KPIs that are currently mostly about capacity and percentages of coverage and stuff like that. So how do you feel in a city, and how does it have to be noisy? So we conducted an experiment on Gospel, or for Gospel. We did a city planning exercise and asked a lot of people, how do you want to, how how do you want Grasshopper to sound like? Make it the part in the city that sounds the best, and we had some amazing results.
48 seconds.
All right, next slide, please. So we asked people to think about what amenities would they want to put where, and decide which areas of the household they would like to be loud or quiet and so on. So they had to decide who do you subject to a lot of noise and who do you not subject to a lot of noise. Where do you put main arteries of traffic? Where do you not allow cars, etc., etc. Then we put this into a calculation, and we computed the resulting noise maps based on people's designs, and then we discussed them with HafenCity on the train.
Exactly. On the train, we found out that a noise economy would be something quite nice. So you could be incentivized for actually being in a noisy environment. We also noticed that total silence is not something that people would like to have. And we also think that we have to reduce traffic and not just think about noise-less islands. Thank you very much.
Next, all this, get ready, please. We come to the next chapter, and we start with participation without consensus, please. And the time is running.
Hello. Our workshop concentrated on this topic of participation without consensus, and we had 47 enthusiastic participants in the workshop, and we were discussing the ability of digital and non-digital tools to reveal both like consensus building but also conflicts. And we used as our theoretical model this kind of model by my colleague Aya Staffans and others, where we did first differentiate between participation and cooperation, where participation is large-scale engagement with a hopefully representative audience, and collaboration is more about good idea producing. And then we asked our workshop participants to differentiate the methods they have already used according to this theoretical model. And next we had a little experiment here in HafenCity when people were first telling about their experiences map-based using Maptionary tool, and then in groups they tried to converge the information they had gathered from participants to some ideas for further development of HafenCity. So we got from 5 groups 5 brilliant ideas how to develop HafenCity further. So our workshop revealed, or actually we tested one way how to converge the diverse knowledge to single ideas, and we finally concluded that in a real-life planning process, these kind of phases of diverging and converging follow each other several times. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, next. Arrival without departure, here's the microphone, and the time is running.
Okay, our session was arrival without departure, and we were focusing mainly on how to arrive at a city. So what we did was we played a little game with our participants, 12. Those are 2 examples. We asked them to tell us their personal story of arrival and departure, and then guessed, and also they told us what the pros and cons there were to arrive in that city or to settle. And from these individual stories we collected, because moving is always an individual thing, we came to some sort of generalization. So we took the individual statements and we tried to extract what appeared the most
in the stories of our participants. So once again, these are the stories about trying to settle or move to a city. And obviously you can read, but I wanted to comment quickly that bureaucracy being an obstacle, being a minus, doesn't surprise anyone, I suppose. But interestingly, I wanted to show you that housing was being mentioned often in two different kinds. One, that the housing market is chaotic, and another, that it's expensive. And among the things that make moving to a city more easy, even though we wanted to get information about cities, the most important thing appearing were international agreements. So where your two countries where you're moving from to are in some sort of agreement, that makes it so much easier. Otherwise, public transportation, a university city, cultural life, and knowing English. Thank you.
Thank you. Beautiful man. We have a lot of time, 4 seconds, talk to each other. And we have the next. Come on, cities without privacy. Please, and this. Go.
Hello. Hi, I'm Maris Jacobs, and I did this workshop together with Florian Lippner and Christian Kurz. We are all PhD students in a joint project from the University of Hamburg, the Technical University of Hamburg, and the Leibniz Institute for Media Studies. And we work interdisciplinary from law, ethics, and computer science to look at interconnected services in the digital age. And we tried to use this perspective to look at smart cities and ask the question of whether smart cities are cities without privacy. And for the workshop, we developed some scenarios. We thought about apps that, for example, could be used for tracking cyclists to decide on where to build better bicycle lanes. We thought about creating smart museums to understand better what visitors' preferences are and how they can be more, how we can make museums more appealing for the visitors, and also to we took some real-life examples, as for example one from Los Angeles, where the city government forced the providers of e-scooters to provide location data of the users to the city government. And we discussed them with the participants of our workshop, and we tried to figure out, what are the advantages of these technological approaches. For example, are bicycle lanes much better if they're built on real-time traffic data? Are museums much better if they're built on what users actually want to see and based on how long they spend, for example, in front of a piece of art? Or, for example, and we kind of tried to figure out what are the privacy concerns and thought about some trade-offs between these two things. And what we found is that users are, yes, a little bit afraid that these technologies are too invasive, that they don't have purpose limitation, especially, and that third parties might get access to that data.
So this is next. Methods without methodologies. This is yours.
So I'm Raphael. Thank you very much. We had the Young Researchers talk, which was mainly about academic tools and culture in the past and also in the present and also in the future. We had a look at the past, on authorities, of course, on different tools, how it was in the past, and then how it is today and maybe in the future. Of course, we all like this. After that, we had several research projects which have been presented. First of all, one from Italy, from Lucia Lupi, from the Open University, and from Torino. She was mirroring the city, so she was talking about ecosystems. And after that, we had a talk on different landscapes in Sri Lanka, and had a bit of technical problems in that time, so that we go to a discussion on Summits Without Skype. Digital without the digital, and after that we went on to two further projects, and the first one was Hin und Weg from Leipzig, which was on urban migration phenomena, and after that also a bit on sustainability issues. And in our discussion we try to link it all and find a solution that is obviously very important to have carefully designed research projects and questions in order to avoid problems of methodology. After that, we had a very short visionary time in the afternoon, which was, the beginning was of course about new tools and instruments, and after that it was on different immersive science tools, so how can we try to act in a kind of new research environment concerning digital tools, and how to maybe invent new smellscapes of science or new kind of scapes that could contribute to a better understanding of what we do for the general public. And at the end, we tried to capture this fruit, which is a passion fruit, in order to get this kind of ecological value. So thank you very much.
Okay, I think we just come to the next chapter. It's SDG. Oh, that's also helpful. Can you do everything? You want me to do that? I can do that. I can do that if you want to. Okay.
So, hi. We talk about cities, and we like to focus on consumption in cities. And our research looks into the carbon impact of consumption in cities, and we would like to focus on what we can do on ground with city-level governance that can actually reduce our footprints in cities, which is how we came up with our collaboration, which involves Urbanites Without Footprints. Our team is led by Professor Catherine Zengeling, along with my teammates Lisa and myself, and we also had Julia from the CSM who helped us out with this event. Our research is based on the fact that the top 3 sectors that have the highest impact of carbon equivalents in terms of consumption in cities is from food, transport, and housing. And research that says that income dictates highly as to how people respond to sustainable behavior. So we decided to look into this and came up with a fun role play for our participants today. We gave them an interesting character that you would find technically in and around HafenCity. So this guy is our friendly neighborhood businessman, Stephen, and we gave them the task of getting through his day with 0 footprints in terms of carbon whatsoever. And we came up with the possibility of letting them draw their own mental maps. So we didn't restrict as to how they would display their observations. And we came up with this beautiful piece of work, which is every single sector and every single income group, and what they thought was their point of view and how they experienced living a low carbon lifestyle, if it was possible at all, in HafenCity. And we'll have the pleasure of analyzing all this information over the next few weeks and giving some information back, whether a 0 footprint lifestyle is actually possible, and if it's worth imagining urbanized without footprints. Thanks.
Next one. Another next chapter, this too. Hi.
Hello, my name is Vanessa Weber and I'm a researcher in the CityScienceLab. In our session, Art Without Humans, we wondered how digital tools, especially machine learning, do influence art and urban spaces. And I would like to introduce our guests and discussants. Katrin Wildner, who is professor for urban anthropology here at HCU. Azino Skorvanik, who is media artist and creative coder. And we have a special guest that I would like to introduce to you. It is the amazing augmented tagger machine. And this amazing augmented tagger machine is transforming urban street tags via Instagram and machine learning into new styles. And taking this machine as a starting point for thinking about artificial intelligence, urban art, and public spaces, we explored 3 different dimensions, or transmissions, so-called. First transmission, from the streets to Instagram. What is the relation between tagging and taking pictures of tags? Second transmission, from Instagram to the amazing augmented tagger machine. There's no raw data, we figured out. The persona of the programmer is inscribed in the process of curating data. In this sense, the outcome is never neutral. third transmission, from the amazing augmented tagger machine to the wall. What happens with the tags, taking them from urban streets to an artificial wall within closed spaces? We asked ourselves, is there any public art without humans? And we came to the conclusion that machine learning in the field of art is a similar discussion as the one in the 1920s about the role of the camera within the process of photography. But we also came to the conclusion that some, and maybe the most crucial questions, cannot be answered immediately. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And here we are, oops, already too far. Smart without culture, go. Yeah.
Hi, this is Jens. We drew on the experiences of 4 cities, Aarhus, Glasgow, Rome, and our own Hamburg. And we also drew on the experience from the economic point of view, from digital cluster, and also from a cultural institution. And we were looking at the prospect of smart without culture. So how can culture, or how does culture impact smart cities? We started with lightning talks from these 4 cities. We had 3 specialists from the World Economic Institute in Hamburg, from the Archaeological Museum, and also from the digital cluster. We came up with kind of cross-sectional collaboration model with cultural technology economy as interdependence in an economic system, but also we looked at digital cultural democracy, which leads to citizen participation one way or another.
Take your microphone closer.
Okay, we then took this one into a so-called rapid impact assessment session. And in this we actually went into 3 different corners. We looked at the economic impact, the social impact, and the innovation impact, and then came into a joint discussion. And basically we identified these impact perspectives, we defined the preconditions that are necessary to do so, we discussed tangible activities, and we associated relevant stakeholders. And finally, of course we don't have full results. The bottom line is, we started the discourse, we launched it. These stakeholders are now willing to join us on the mission of defining culture in a smart city with impact assessment. So you can see we have got a creative, modern, open city as a precondition for economic impact. We have the social impact with citizen participation with a number of fields that we have to touch. And finally, we have the innovation impact, which means having an ecosystem that actually is catering for innovation. And that is smart city culture.
Okay, we come to the next section. It's digital. Data without digitality, data chain without chain data, and cities without risk. Who's first? Here you go.
Hello, my name is livable. I'm from HafenCity in Amsterdam, which is an Institute for Art, Science and Technology. And one of our main objectives is to sort of democratize technology, and that does also mean that we put more of an emphasis on that technology is not neutral, and it's also the case for data. I'm going to go away. So as you can see, I probably have pictures because it's very much an immersive experience that we've done here with the workshop. We used quite a lot of data from a project that VAG is involved in collaboration with HafenCity University. It's called Cities for People. That's data from the city here. And we looked for the personal perspectives and the new storylines that you can find in data. So we challenged the participants to come up with new ways to look at data in a more physical way, in a more sort of 3D way. As you can see here, this is one of the presentations that's actually a performance of data, which should take place on location to showcase the results of a survey that was performed in the city. This is actually based on a previous workshop of the data without noise, and we try to use the data from that workshop to make a sort of digital, non-digital representation in a more physical way. And this is a very cool tool that was developed, and I think is going in production after this project. It's a way to sort of actually monitor positive and negative elements in the city. I think you walk around and ask for the patent for it. And this is also a very nice visualization also of the data that we have already. That's it.
That's it. Thank you very much. Anna Jane. Thank you.
So Daniel, Emilia, David, myself, Solon, and Chris, we were looking at the built environment and the relationship between the human-centric data and the built environment. What does that mean in terms of like sharing this data, understanding what's the personal good out of this data, and from the public point of view, what's the relationship in terms of like what to give in different scales, from city scale to building scale, etc. So we started with several challenges to talk about like different aspects of this that's related to the built environment. And we gave this kind of proposition of like asking the participants on, as I said, what's shareable, what's private, what's the value for the person who shared the data, and what's the public good out of it. And this is basically what summarizes basically the brainstorming session that we did, and the results are.
We were discussing what's going on with data. If you have these different scales of the built environment, and we have, one of our outcome was no data platforms without trust. So you have to trust these platforms where we are giving your data. What data do we share? Where do we share it? Who owns the platform? Who receives data from us? And the next point was no data sharing without shared values. So I don't give my data to anybody who doesn't share my values. So maybe you have to switch from one data platform to another data platform if you recognize that the values on this platform where the data are processed are not in conformity with your values. So no objectivity without subjectivity. So all the data you are sharing is, and all the needs and the wants you are putting into the data must be objectivized, so that all over you have an objective view of what you need.
Thank you very much. Okay, no presentation without mistakes again, and data without risk will hopefully come later, I don't know. But now we're changing to mapping cities without data. This is yours, right?
Yeah, the subtitle is not, but this is ours.
Okay.
Hey, I'm Sebastian. I organized this workshop together with Jochen Schiele. And our main objective was how can we actually get funding to create projects to create better cities. And so we were really happy to have a speaker here from the VDI who is running the innovation platform called Zukunftsstadt, City of the Future, I guess. So thanks again to Oliver Krause who gave the talk in our presentation. And so what did we do? We were thinking about how can we overcome the challenges when we apply for funding in Germany in joint research projects, specifically looking into data-driven urban innovation. And so we had a really diverse crowd in our workshop, from industry, from academia, from government, from journalism. So we had all these different perspectives coming in and thinking about how can we actually work together and how can we apply for funding together. And we had some really vibrant debates, got really emotional at some points. So we had some really interesting questions. For example, how can we work together with different expectations to the rate of innovation? So in industry, innovation needs to go really rapid, so we need to deliver an MVP in a few months to go out there, and when we think about the time scale of a PhD, we talk about something completely different. So how can we bring these worlds together so that we can actually create some interesting and for everyone successful research projects together? So talking about the next steps where we are going to take this. So from the workshop today as a starting point, we're now building a network which will help us to build better research projects, better funding proposals for the future. So we're creating this kind of interactive network for the future, where we are sharing our visions, the things we are working on, the things we're doing research on, to be better prepared for future research projects and funding proposals.
Thank you very much. Okay, I think we're heading to the next chapter, logistics. One, paths without limits. Here we go.
Yeah, thank you. So, this is the workshop about the
Paths
without limits, where we just visited the facilities of the Hamburg Port Authority, and Annika Gritzemeyer and Niklas Schwartz gave us an overview of the digital tools that they are implementing right now for the digitalization of the entire port infrastructure. So they can be summarized in these 6 fields. Agent-based modeling is one of them. We also presented our point there. So one of them is augmented reality, then agent-based model, then Internet of Things, IoT, smart sensing, scanning, and the cloud storage and data exchange platforms, which is they told us their experience is trying to implement this in the current processes with non-digital natives working in the port, and how that is what a dialogue is. How the dialogue takes place. So that was the facilities of the board. They had really much interesting stuff going on there. And at the end, the final goal of all this is to put everything together in this new strategy coming up, which is the port digital twin, which is this digital replica of the physical entity of the port, where we can try different things before making them happen and see how things are happening in the digital world before implementing them in the actual infrastructure and have an actual impact.
That's it. Good. I'm very much amazed how that works and what you did. It looks really like work. Okay, well, we're going into simulations, 3 presentations, get ready, and we start with the first one, prediction without data.
Hello, I'm Sophia, and I was a participant of this workshop. And so with prediction without data has to do with urban planning solutions. A lot of times we are dependent on real-world data. So one way to augment this data source is through simulation, because sometimes the granularity of data is not sufficient for the kind of predictions that we want to make. So we went on to get 3 talks about the technical achievements able to achieve this simulation. So first, Arno talked about CityScope as a whole and how they used agent-based modeling and what that entails. And then Ronan went on to talk about multi-scale land use and mobility modeling. So basically how we can model at different scales and how to do that efficiently through using different platforms. And then Christian talked about models of individual incentives through spatial equilibrium modeling. And then, even though these are quite generic platforms, they have to be customized using real-world data for specific applications. So then we got 3 different applications of using this platform for urban planning. In Germany itself, we have Strasbourg, and then we have the revamping of Champs-Élysées and Lyon as well. So basically showing us how this platform can be used effectively. And then we moved on to a lively discussion of some of the concepts that were mentioned, such as how to reflect how human behavior may be similar, how we can leverage different systems to decrease computational complexity, etc.
Now we have to refresh for a second. Let's see if that works. Yes, it looks like, and we go back because I jumped over one. Let's see if that works. Is it the right one? Don't look at it! Yeah, now you go. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm Noah. I'm taking back you to a journey from Germany to Egypt. So, fishermen villages, simple fishermen villages, rapid urbanization, women and children participation. This is some topics that we're discussing in a project that I'm honored to be participant with. It's a collaboration between HafenCity University CityScienceLab, UCL, and three of the main Egyptian universities, the Delta, Kafr Sheikh Mansour, and Tamta University. Actually, we are trying through these topics in order to understand how people could manage this rapid urbanization themselves. Probably also we are discussing some of the topics, some of the hybrid topics in this issue. How we can predict informalities before being there. Is it possible or not? So this is one of the questions that we are trying to pose within our project. And how algorithmic thinking could take part in this case. We have been struggling, having dialogues, having conflicts sometimes, and trying to share our ideas on how this could happen in our project, which is extending to some months. And we have been collecting this data and have been collecting these ideas, and we have been trying to share these ideas together and to try to understand how people could control machines and not the vice versa. How sharing and participating could create the new technology and not vice versa. And thank you.
Okay, I have to jump. Let's see if I can do that. This is next.
Hi again. Yeah, so this is the first session of the day that we took, was tourism without crowds, and we were talking about basically the impact of tourism for the actual city. So contemporary tendencies of tourism have changed a lot. We have different ways of measuring and studying that. We are also risking the mass tourism challenges, and for talking about that, we had Jose from the International Association of Port Cities, then we had Dr. Mark Pons from Andorra, and then I gave a short, briefly...
Take the microphone closer.
Yeah. I gave a short brief introduction about the Port City Model Project and background research. So, yeah, so the research is not related to the topic really. Mark Pons from Andorra, he was talking about how Andorra, with the potential and the challenges of such a small country, is managing the ski tourism, and how the new global change and global climate change is challenging the ski resource, but at the same time it's a potential to make some bigger economic impact in some of the ski resorts, and some that are challenging, and they are all adapting to the new situation. So we were talking about how to measure that, how to study that, and how to propose solutions. Then Jose Sanchez from the International Network of Ports, he was talking about how port cities, particularly the port city interface, so the spaces of the cities that are in between the port and the city center, how they are being remodeled and rethinked with the new with the impact of cruise tourism. So the new cruise terminals, how they are affecting the urban environment, how they have to be connected to the city center, and how they can be sustainable. Yeah. And then the last talk was my talk, and you have some pictures of the Port City models I was saying. So we were talking about the impact of cruise tourism for the urban flow in general.
Thank you very much. So next chapter is informality, and I think we have 3 presentations in one, right? So, go. So you have 6 minutes, is that right? Okay, go for it.
Sure.
Triptych was organised by CSL and MIT, and we started with 4 case studies, and then we had a workshop discussion session, and then we had a walk to symbolize moments of time. So first of all, the presentations.
Yeah, so we have 4 perspectives of informality cases. And the first one was informality with solutions. The second one, the first one was informality with, the second one is enhancing livability through resources efficiency. This is the case in Egypt, where we get to know 2 cases and compare how the low-income population and high-rise development are working and getting some solutions, and we saw that actually the low-income population are consuming these products and reduce water, but the cost of services are higher, and we compare, and this is something that happens also in Mexico. The third one was Human City Project in Nigeria, where the Human City Project combines media advocacy, urban planning, and litigation to help residents in informal settlements imagine, plan, and build their neighborhoods in the new and sustainable ways. And here we saw the third case in Mexico is creating opportunities for crime prevention. We focus on address good practices in safety and security in informal settlements in Mexico. And so the case of Lomas in Centinela, where we are working with children in solutions to prevent crime and violence and to avoid them to get into
So, we then got into groups and started talking and thinking. We felt that this distinction between formal and informal was important, but perhaps in many cases more apparent than real and needed to be really interrogated. We needed to look at power, at scale, at the tensions between legality and legitimacy, and the role of the state. And we thought very hard about urban imaginaries, how we imagine cities and the future of cities. And we felt that this question of the relationship between the formal and the informal was very much tied up with the shift between an urban imaginary, which has been very much produced in the north, and an urban reality, an urban future, which is increasingly going to be produced in the south. And for many people, particularly people in the north, this diptych of the formal and the informal is a way of making sense of a very complex reality that they have yet to get to grips with. So we thought a little bit about how we could move beyond that and dive into what we felt was a profound crisis of representation. How do we imagine cities? How do we manage collective decision-making and collective actions? What kinds of institutions, formal or informal, state or non-state, what kinds of processes can we use to navigate our urban futures?
Yeah, one more.
So for the third part of the session, we did this walkthrough to the informality settlement here in Hamburg. So we saw the different conditions of the people, mostly the immigrants that came to the city, which we realize is very different to what happened in the places that we came. But maybe physical conditions, they can manage it, but they are struggling with social aspects to get into the social services such as healthcare and also education. So they call the people without documentation
actually. Well, we have this sense of how they live. Yeah, let's see.
Good. Thank you. Okay, I think we're almost done, but we have some more who came in very late. So we have 3 more. Campus Without Walls. Here you go. Thank you. In my favorite place.
Hi everyone, so I'm Ronan Doherty and I'm a research scientist with the CityScienceLab at MIT.
Ryan Zhang, a PhD student in MIT India.
So our workshop was called Campus Without Walls, and it was all about the idea of the kind of blurring of the boundary between the traditional university campus and the rest of the wider city and community. And we were kind of thinking about the 2 main purposes of a university in terms of facilitating learning as well as facilitating innovation, and how both of these purposes can be enhanced by a greater integration with the wider community. So first we had some talks given by 2 professors. So Professor Guillermo Suminen from Alta University talked to us about an initiative in Alta University called School as a Service, whereby resources such as buildings are not owned by a particular institution, but they're shared among different universities and schools and local businesses.
Professor Yongqi from Tongji University in Shanghai, Dean of Design Innovation School, also introduced us a project they did, which used community as a living lab. So they introduced radical programs like living lab or co-working space incubators to activate the community and to create ecosystems which is co-creating and also livable. And with 29 lovely and brilliant participants, we have 4 groups of discussion, and we brainstorm and explore a lot of aspects of this campus without wall situation. So we have including this advantage of the walls, physical or virtual walls, and the content, how to spread them.
Okay, I think you have to skip that. Thank you very much. And next will be games without seriousness. No, what is this? It's okay? Wrong side.
Wrong side, right talk. Thank you very much again. I think this is the last one. So we've done a workshop about games and the complexity of games compared to the complexity of the city. And I really enjoyed that so many people joined this workshop, because I think for you who joined this workshop, it was a little bit unexpected what we were doing. Because we created in 1 hour one thought about a very good game that is going to build this complexity in one thought. So when you're going to create a game, the most important part is to create something that makes always sense on one hand, and on the other hand, that is also fun to use, and that you want to reuse this game more often. And so we have just taken very old games, maybe you know SimCity from 1989, or Sid Meier's first transport tycoon, and said the established mechanisms in these games can just be a mirror for what's going on in real cities. So nowadays, these simulations are very complex, but if you want to create such a game, and it's really hard how to figure out one thought and to develop a mechanism that is going to show you how can city in the future be built, and it has to be fun on the other side. So the idea about games without seriousness was that we don't take it too serious, because else nobody would use it. So the ideas presented were very good, because some have community ideas, some have transportation ideas, some have ideas already existing in the market about energy,
And I always, I said to all of them, so they were in small groups, I said to them, okay, your project will raise so much money when you want to produce it, and I think you can clearly see that this huge game market, which is very complex, can even deliver for nearly all kinds of complex simulation games for cities. So for urban planners, it might be in the future very good too. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think there's one more to come. I hope it is refreshed correctly. Yes, CityScienceLab. Here you go. Oops, I already started.
Alright, yes, we're the last ones. My name is Mark Poland from the Great Space for Technical Innovations, and we thought about risk in the city. The World Economic Forum actually said that 5 of the top risks are either climate change, cyber attacks, or water scarcity. We have lots of technical tools from small city context that actually claim that they could reduce risk, improve efficiency of structures, and wanted to think about how that actually could become a risk. Especially because the digital tools can be connected everything to everything else, and it speeds up the complexity and the dependency of the systems, and such we have hyper-complex systems that cannot kind of solve by just one person. That's why we basically, that's why we made a map with all the different disciplines trying to scope. And
let me do it for you.
Yes. Oops. We produced a map that's on YouTube, so you can actually look it up on YouTube about looking on risk or wild risk on the digital city from the terms of computer science, from sociology and urban planning, and this is actually liberation. I give you 3 key ways that you can have. The first, as we know that every system breaks or can be breakable, it's not about safety and security, it's about resilience. Resilience is the key point that actually links everything to everything else and doing that in a disciplinary manner, which is also possible to connect these different digital solutions to local actors, local groups, and by thus make it more responsible on the level where it actually kind of takes place. The second part that we had, that there's a kind of, we're living in an age of a re-dramatization of risk. So climate change is actually kind of bringing lots of people on the streets and making them active because they have this trauma, and you could easily combine that actually with risk, make risk more visible, which is one important part. And then last is actually, it's never about ethics and moral that you can build into the technology, but rather something that we have to consider and approach it as technocultures that use the technology and the space are actually coming together and develop a trust. So with that, risk can become a speculative power and not just a
okay, that is the last one. This is, oh, now it's coming in. Now that we have the right slides. And here we are now at the end, I think, almost 100 slides in a very short time. Thank you very much. What I would like you to all hosts come on stage together, that we not only see it here one by one, but all together. All hosts come on stage for a second and give a hand to all the people who worked here and they made a hosting for the first ceremony. And then I will hand over to
couldn't possibly comment on everything. I mean, so much information went by so quickly. 2 minutes didn't do any of these topics, but what they were worth. I will just say that when we threw out this concept of without, when we started talking about the power of without, some people got it, some people thought it was really bizarre, which actually encouraged me to pursue it. And I'm so glad that everybody just kind of ran with this concept. And what I love is when we throw something out like this, I love to be surprised. And I was surprised with many of the directions that it went in. And I particularly, what was I surprised by? I was surprised that one group got into funding. This is something actually we've been talking about a lot this week. The difference between academic and industry funding, European funding and the U.S. model based on philanthropy, from billionaires basically. It's very different. I think this is a really interesting topic. We can organize a little conference on that. Serious games. I mean, I think our CityScope platform really was conceived as a game that would encourage lay people to engage in a complex process, and I think we're just scratching the surface with that. So I think that's something very interesting, new direction that we can pursue. I love the notion of this image of the city that's developed in the north versus the urban reality that's emerging in the south, and I think that's something we will continue to explore, and many other ideas. So I just want to thank everybody for their enthusiasm. It was fantastic.
I think we're at the end now, and we have to say goodbye. You want to sit up in here? Okay, so there were some researchers who asked me if we are going to publish a call, and it is like that. There is a call. If you want to apply for publishing something, an article, then please look at our website. There will be a book also that will come out of the whole summit. And as Immanuel said, this is also our documentation about the summit. This one will be published very soon at our website. That's the city design, we call it. That's great. I mean, there's a lot of good material. You don't have to work on it so much. Yeah, what are we doing now, Ken? We say thank you.
Yeah, we say thank you.
Thank you.
Well, who should we thank? There's so many people to thank. Certainly we have to thank Maggie back there. Stand
And from our team, there's also Therese and Annalena, our students' assistants. And then there's Kaki, she took care of our budget. And Sarah Pieper, please get up. Daniel was also responsible for I forgot.
Yeah, we forget people. One thing I would like to say.
Wait. No, I said Yannick. I mentioned Yannick already. I would really like to thank Immanuel, because Immanuel was our director for the whole setting.
One thing I would like to say, we brought 19 people way for our whole team to get to know each other a little better and to share projects. So I would like everybody from MIT to stand up, or if you're standing, wave your hand. So you can see. Whether it was hanging projectors or putting things up to the gallery there, that Guadalupe and Maitane and others worked on, it's so great to have such a fabulous team who doesn't need direction because they're just self-motivated and they do things to surprise you all the time. So, thank you. Everybody needs to sign one of these posters that are out here on the table, all right? And this is a challenge, so we want some really creative signatures, okay?
And what's going on tonight? I don't know. There is a What is the Screen, Lara? A What is the Screen is a kind of theater, or it's kind of movie festival. They screen movies on public walls. It's a walk. You can walk with them. It's really a very, very nice project. If you haven't seen it, then please go. It will start when and where? 1945 in front of ASU. Now we will get some drinks outside. And then we already had a very nice party yesterday night. We saw the whole network dancing. That was so amazing. I liked it so much. But there will be also parties for this night if you are still awake. We have a holiday tomorrow, so the clubs will be open in another. And what we didn't know, we reserved a table at the restaurant because some people will stay here. Could you raise your hands and tell me who would like to have dinner with us, just for me to get a feeling of how many people would like to join us? It's a restaurant which is very close here to our building. It's a 10-minute walk. So who wants to join us in the restaurant? Where are my Finnish friends? Yes, can you come with us? Okay, so this is okay. So the rest did. Is this okay? We reserved for 30 people. You think it will work? Again, please raise your hands. Is it more than 30 people? I can. That's so much. My feeling is that it's okay. We tried. So at 8, so we're going to meet probably in front of the university at the main entrance, and then we walk together. At 8 o'clock, in front of the main entrance, not that one, the other one over there. Okay, that's it. So, thanks. Sorry.
We forgot something very important.
Yeah, we're not going to throw Lego at anyone this time. But we want to say thank you to these two amazing people.
Everyone masterminds of the CityScienceLab in 2019. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you.